Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I wanted to discuss kind of the aftermath of Dot and Bubble, specifically things like what's said on Doctor Who Unleashed, and kind of give some further thoughts because there's an elephant in the room that I didn't address in my review that, to be honest, I didn't pick up on broadcast. And I acknowledge that's entirely my own fault. It became a lot more clear to me after thinking about it for longer. But the whole point of those original videos is to get my raw thoughts out as soon as the midnight drop happened. But what that means is sometimes I will miss things that don't quite hit on my radar, and this was certainly one of those times. I'm of course talking about the racism aspect to this episode.
That reveal at the end of the ep, it was heartbreaking. You probably do realise it in the ep, but it's the moment when we look around and everyone is white, and you're just like,
Once I rewatched it and heard some people's takes on it, it became a lot more obvious to me. And I will say, personally for me, this whole idea has significantly gone up in my estimation with the added context of it being kind of a racism allegory on top of the social media and class stuff as well, because that stuff's still there, but it's not the core point. The core point is that this society wants to live in its own bubble, and that bubble is exclusively white and rich and privileged. And the more I've thought about it, the more I really enjoy that aspect to this episode. I think it was done really well. I feel awful for the fact that I myself didn't pick up on it immediately, but that's what happens when you cover something directly after it comes out. I will say though, it makes me think about that one review. I think the Radio Times said it was Black Mirror without the bite. That final scene is brutal at the end, where the lines that stick out to me on rewatch are things like, "Oh, it's your magic box of voodoo," and "You, sir, are not one of us." And the fact that Lindy is a lot more receptive to Ruby Sunday than she is the Doctor. And she calls him mean and horrible for basically no other reason than the fact that he exists and is trying to help. And the line about it's his duty to help her, almost as if he's subservient to them. I thought there's so many little moments that are now just clicking in my brain, and it's added a whole new dimension and a whole new appreciation I have for this episode. It still probably is on my lower end of the series, I'm not going to lie. I still do think there are some issues with this episode, particularly surrounding things like, as I said, the Dot and Bubble, the fact that they are already essentially able to kill people without the need of the slugs makes you think, why even bother with the slugs in the first place? If the Dots created the slugs, they manufactured them to get rid of the humans, that's fine. But then why not give everyone a Dot and Bubble and just kill them all off? There's minor little issues like that I picked up on. I do want to walk back something though. I think the fact that Lindy is so unlikable is what makes this such a compelling watch, because it's so easy to make a protagonist likable to watch with a flaw that then gets resolved. But no, she's just a horrible person with the veneer of this kind of overly happy, fake, online personality. There's kind of an element of false activism to her as well. There's that scene where she says, "Oh, all my clothes are naturally resourced," and all of this, and they don't take up any of the resources. And there's a bit at the end as well that really stuck out for me where they said, "We're going to do what our ancestors did and go out into the stars and tame it and own it." And I thought that was very interesting. There's so many little bits that I'm now picking up on that I just want to give full credit and make a bit of a follow-up video, because I missed them in my original review, and I think that they really add a dimension to this story that I didn't see before, and I take full responsibility for not seeing it initially. But the more I've thought about it, the more I enjoy this episode. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to add this bit in and say I actually really like that aspect, and I feel dumb for not initially clocking on, but now that I have, I'm like, oh, that's what they were going for. I felt stupid. I felt like that woman when she's trying to walk without the bubble. But I'm glad now that I've clicked it, and I'm like, yeah, this really works, actually. And it's an extra dimension to a story that I didn't see, and full credit to them, because once you do, it hits you like a ton of bricks, and that final scene is so effective at it. The fact that that was Gatwin's first scene as well, utterly incredible. That's still one of my criticisms of this series so far, is I want to see more of him because he's so good, and apparently that was the first scene he shot. They do say as well, like, obviously that's a very heavy first scene for him, obviously dealing with racism in that way. And they sort of say in Unleashed, "Oh, should we have moved it around? Should we put it later on so we can get settled in?" but they were like, no, let's just go for it. And he smashes it. And I want to see more of that Doctor. I actually really do enjoy Gatwa's Doctor a whole lot.
We were all kind of holding our breath thinking, that's no way you'd start any lead actor off. We talked about it. Should we reschedule? Should we let him settle in? Should we hold this scene off? And in the end, we decided to go for it, and bang! That's a great actor. He just hits it, and it's one of the most remarkable performances I've ever seen.
I have seen people kind of say that they were uncomfortable with the idea that Ncuti Gatwa, the first mainline Black Doctor's first scene being filmed, was a scene dealing with racism. Evidently, I am not the person with the horse in that race to have that conversation. So how you feel about that, I will leave up to you. Personally, for me, all I will say is that I thought he crushed that scene, and I thought, yes, it will be remembered as one of those scenes that you go, oh my god, okay, that's really quite something. I think what I appreciate about this storyline as well is that I'm really glad it wasn't just these damn Gen Zs with their damn phones, because that's such an easy cliche to do, and that cliche is there, but it's not the point, and it was a lot less on the nose than I thought it was going to be, and a lot more about how actually we as humans in general, we sort of surround ourselves with our own ideas and our own thoughts and our own bubble, and I thought that was really, really clever. Because they're right. We tailor-make our social media and our platforms to our own interests and to our own belief systems, to the point where the idea of an outsider is something kind of weird. You know, this idea of safe spaces online and kind of challenging that by going, but look at what's beyond that. Look at what you're not seeing. I thought was really effective, and the more I've thought about this episode, honestly, for the most part, again, I repeat what I said, the more I enjoy it. I think it would have been so easy to just do social media bad, the story, and I think the racism angle really does add something to it. And I think the idea as well of it not being a bunch of old people either, because I think that's a stereotype in of itself, that racism only exists within, you know, the older generations. Not true. It exists in all generations. And I think to show that is really quite effective, that we are not immune to it, you know, just because historically and kind of the way that the media looks at young people is, oh, they're the more progressive, you know, lefty liberal ones. Not always the case. We are prone to it as well. We are prone to our own bubbles. I've been in my own bubble online before, and I've had to kind of break away from it. And to see that kind of reflected in a Doctor episode with a sci-fi concept, I thought was really actually very clever and biting. And I think it is something we'll remember. And it's the sort of substance I've missed from Doctor Who, in truth. I also think it's interesting that people have pointed out that the character of Ricky September is kind of coded to be Doctor-esque, but in a way where, unlike with the Doctor, Lindy is fully receptive to him. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the person she's fully receptive to is the blonde white guy who is acting very similarly to the Doctor, but there's a crucial difference between him and the Doctor. So many little interesting things that I'm clocking on to now that have made my estimations of this episode go up way higher. But let me know what you guys think. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like, comment down below your thoughts, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.